In this video, we're going to take a look at the 835 element reporter in our EDI utility toolbox. The 835 element reporter is one of 19 tools currently in the toolbox at the time of this video. We're always adding new tools, so do check back often. The 835 element reporter is a bit of a report writer. It allows you to go in and select certain pieces of information to report out of a raw EDI file. What is nice is you don't have to take an 835 file and parse it or bring it into your billing system or what have you and then do some kind of secondary process to try to extract data back out of it. This basically goes to the raw EDI file and says, tell me about how many of these specific elements are in the file and what's their value. So the three specific areas you can report on are claim level adjustment reason codes. That's the 2100 loop and the CAS segment. So basically you're going to say any claim level adjustments, I'll be able to query, tell me about a certain CAS code and how many dollars and how many instances of that particular CAS code exist. Second thing you can query on is specific line level service or service level adjustment reason codes or CAS codes. So it's down at the 2110 loop, the actual service lines and those claim level claim adjustment reason codes. The third thing you can report on is an actual procedure code itself at the service line. So once again, we're at the 2110 loop. This time you're going to be looking for certain either CPT codes or NUBC codes or what have you. It's rules based and you can have as many of those different rules as you want, so each rule represents one kind of data extract. So let's take a look at it. But before I actually show the demo, let's take a look at a business case where we're going to actually pull some information. I'm going to actually show you a different product here. This is not part of the toolbox. This is our EDI file reader tool, the EDI power reader. And what it does is it opens up raw EDI files and displays them to you in a grid, so you can actually see the records in an EDI file in human readable form. We're looking at an 835 file. This is the same file we're going to use in a second. In this file, I see each of my claims on its own line, much like you would see it in Excel. There's a column here called claim adjustments. There's a value in this particular claim here, and if we scroll through, there's a few of them. So let's say, for example, this payer takes a prompt pay discount when they pay claims within a certain period of time. That prompt pay discount comes as a claim level adjustment. And I'm going to view the raw EDI of this file for a second here so we can see of this particular claim at the 2100 loop. There is a CAS segment, which is at the claim level, not the service line levels, which are down here, but the claim level CAS is a CO for contractual obligations. 44 is the code that indicates prompt pay discount, and the 10 is the dollar amount. So in this particular example, this payer took a $10 prompt pay discount off of this claim, but it adjudicated each of the service lines accordingly. So that's what we're going to try to grab. Show me all my $10 44s, if you will. So in order to do that, we're going to go to our 835 element reporter, which is this button here. First thing it wants to do is know what file it's looking at. Make sure it's even an 835 file. So your open file dialog box pops up. I'm going to select a file, and I'm going to actually close the main menu behind it so it's easier to look at here. But here's my interface where I set up my rules. Now I have a rule out here called CPT codes. We're going to come back to that one in a second. Once I have a rule already written and I've selected a file, I can just click OK and I'm going to get a result. But I'm going to actually start a new rule. All of our toolbox utilities that have a rule set work pretty much on the same principle. We want to start a new rule. I'm going to call this one CAS 44 because that's the CAS claim adjustment reason code in the CAS segment that I'm looking for. You can call it, of course, whatever you'd like. So I've created the rule, but it's an empty bucket at this particular moment. So I want to edit that rule. By the way, I can also delete the rule when I no longer want it. But I'm going to edit the rule, and there's nothing in my container, so I'm going to start from scratch. First thing it wants to know is which one of those three types of queries am I going to be doing here. and here's where you select it off of this drop down. I am going to be looking for claim adjustments. This is the 2100 loop. The qualifier is optional. I could put like a CO qualifier on there for contractual obligations, but I'm going to not bother here. The type of comparison I'm going to make is it's a string field. We're looking for a text, freeform text, could be letters, could be numbers, and here are all my operators. In this case, I could do an equal, or I could do a contains even. In this case, now if I did a contains, like I do here, I'll find my 44s, but I might also find my 445s if they even exist. I'm just rattling those off of my head, but you get the idea. So I'm going to refine it a little bit and do equals and add. So I've got a single rule. I'm going to stop here for this one here. You can have multiple lines. The file ID and the destination folder are completely optional. They only come into play when you go to save the file. At this point, I'm just going to do display, so I'm going to leave those. They're a default, and I'm going to leave them blank for the moment. So I'm going to save, and I'm going to close. So I now have a new rule called CAS44, and that file ID in the destination folder, which I left blank on the default, they would show up here if I had entered them. But again, when we just click the OK button, we're not writing any report to disk. We're just pulling up a display at this moment. So there's no need for file information. So here's what I have. In that particular file, there were 5 instances of a claim level adjustment 44. And you can see each one of them, including the payee, the date of the payment, the patient control number, the claim amount charged, the claim amount paid, the payer claim control number, the date, the claim service date, etc. If it's a range, a start and an end, you would get them both. The claim status, the bill type, and then the 3 things we're looking for. What we're really looking for here in this business case is how much did it cost me in this file. This week they took $50 out of my pay for a prompt pay discount. Now let's close that and go back to my element reporter. I'll show you another rule. Again, pick the file, and this time we're going to look at CPT codes, which is a rule I have already written. Let's edit that. This one has multiple lines, and you can see we're looking for at the service code level 2110 loop service SVC01 contains 81001. Now this is a compound element, so doing contains is probably the simpler way to do it. If you do a hard equals, it's going to want to render the entire segment, so you'd have to know the qualifier, and you'd also have to know the element separator. So in this case, I've got equals HC:87086. I happen to know that that's what's in the file. You may not know that, so sometimes contains on some of these queries might be a little easier to use, but you can use both. Now I'm going to look for anything that has an 81001. I'm also looking for an 87086 or an 87088. So I'm going to look for all 3 of those, and of course you can have more. So when I select that one, I'm going to get all the service lines that have that any one of those 3 CPT codes. So I can go down to the bottom and say, you know, we charged $580 worth of gross charges, and we were paid $64 on it. So it's analyzing how much should we get paid for newborn inpatient deliveries for prenatal XYZ. So you kind of pick what kind of procedure code you're looking to report on. This will report it back. And then when you go to save that file, it's going to save it as a tab delimited text. It's going to call it whatever the name of the file is, but you can of course call it anything you want. I'm going to call it test. Some of our exports go directly to Excel format. Some of them we actually will dump out to a text tab delimited, so you can basically call it up in any file you want, including Notepad, for example. But also this will easily get read into Excel, especially if I put a TXT extension on it. So there's that same dump out. You can doesn't look very nice in Notepad, probably not the greatest choice, but in Excel those would all be neatly put in their columns. And that is the 835 element reporter. Check back frequently for updates, and if you have any questions or would like to talk about any of these videos, give us a shout.